International launch for the Philippines' participation in the Expo 2020 here in Dubai. Today's events shall bring forward the best that the Philippines as a nation has to offer in the global stage, particularly how the current economic and cultural landscape of the country can be a great source of investment and partnership opportunities between the Filipino people and the peoples of the United Arab Emirates. To begin our program, may we call on the Secretary of the Philippine Department of Trade and Industry and concurrent Commissioner General of the Philippine Organizing Committee, His Excellency Ramon Lopez, to please come to the stage to deliver this message for our guests this morning.
Sunny, good morning, everyone. To the Deputy Commissioner General and Executive Director of the Expo 2020, Dubai Bureau Najib Al-Ali, our gracious host, and our part-time driver as well. Of course, the Philippine and tour guide, Philippine Ambassador to UAE, Her Excellency I.J. Celine Quintana, the Honorable Congressman from the Philippines, Congresswoman Sherny Tan, Philippine Consul General in Dubai, Paul Cortez, officials of the Expo 2020 Bureau, the honorable officials and members of the Philippine Organizing Committee, my fellow workers in government, and also from the Department of Trade and Industry, our undersecretaries and assistant secretaries, partners from government agencies under the Philippine Organizing Committee, our valued media guests and friends, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It is my distinct honor to welcome you to the international launch of the Philippine Pavilion in Expo 2020 Dubai. We take pride in bringing to reality the vision of our President, Rodrigo Roa Duterte, to take part in the Expo 2020 Dubai, now being referred to as the world's greatest show of our time. This is a milestone in the Philippines' journey towards its shared future, and continued relations with the Middle East and the rest of the world. Through the pavilion that will rise on this site in the Expo's sustainability area, the Philippines shall set itself apart on many levels of engagement with the world. The Philippine Pavilion's theme for the Expo is inspired by Bangkota, an ancient Tagalog word that means coral reef. The concept of Bangkota, or the coral reef, depicts the diverse and interconnected groups of Filipinos that have spread throughout the world. but has remained as one large connected community across the oceans and distances that separate them. In UAE alone, we have over 700,000 Filipinos living, working, and contributing to the UAE economy, and they are assets to its society. It is from this central theme that the Philippine Organizing Committee has developed the main concepts and architectural designs that shall shape the Philippines Pavilion. The Philippine participation in the Expo will need our collective strength of purpose and determination for it to be successful. Our participation will require what we call a modern bayanihan. That's a Tagalog word that means the coming together of government agencies and private sector, experts and partners to help us achieve our mandate for this World Expo. Bangkota will be realized in art, design, and architecture, and then brought forward by our Philippine creative team. The pavilion content will carry a message that will change how the world will see the Philippines as a country of creative Filipinos, caring, compassionate, and connected by migration, technology, and travel. It will be a message that will evoke the 4,000-year history of the Filipinos who have become the world's most diverse and deeply connected nationality. Today's launch at the site of the Philippines Pavilion and the upcoming events in preparation for our country's participation in Expo 2020 Dubai would not be possible without the tireless interagency efforts of the Philippine Organizing Committee. I hope that your enthusiasm and support will remain steadfast as we prepare for bigger things until the opening of the Expo and the much-awaited Philippines Pavilion in October 2020. Let us also acknowledge and thank Her Excellency Reem Ibrahim Al Hashimi, Minister of State and Director General of the Expo 2020 Dubai, for organizing and hosting what will certainly be the greatest show on earth. The Philippines looks forward to building stronger ties with the UAE and its people, and in delivering an incredible Philippines Pavilion befitting this great show. More importantly, we look towards a shared future, a deeper friendship, and continuing cooperation between our two nations. Thank you, and mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you, Secretary Lopez, for that informative and insightful speech. As you all know, our events today are geared towards the Philippines' preparations for its participation in the upcoming World Expo 2020 to be held right here in Dubai. This monumental event would not be possible without the tireless efforts of the Expo 2020 Organizing Committee. We are joined today by Executive Director of Dubai Expo 2020 Bureau, Mr. Najib Al-Ali. I'd like him to please join me on stage to kindly share with us your message for the Philippine delegation and our guests.
Good morning, everybody. Commissioner General Lopez, Ambassador Quintana, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. I'm excited to be here today to take part and celebrate the international launch of the Philippines Pavilion, the next major milestone for the country on its journey to its presence in Expo 2020 Dubai. Earlier this year, in February, we were delighted to welcome the Philippines team to the UAE for the signing of the country's participation contract. And now, we are delighted to have you back here today with us. Since your last visit, everyone at Expo 2020 has been continuing their hard work to deliver a meaningful World Expo that has real relevance and impact across continents and generations. More than 150 million work hours have already been completed, and as you can see for yourself, construction is well advanced across the site. Our iconic Al Wasl Plaza behind us, the center of the Expo 2020 site, has been crowned, and all the infrastructure work is now complete. We are sure that the Philippines Pavilion, with its coral reef-inspired design and the focus on Filipino culture and sustainability, will be very popular with our millions of visitors and add to the excitement of what they can expect to see in the World Expo. These engaging and quality country pavilions, in combination with the many unique and exciting visitor experiences, will help attract the 25 million visits to Expo 2020 Dubai and leave a lasting impact on all of our visitors here in the UAE. It is our firm belief that the Philippines, along with other participating nations, will play a key role in helping us deliver the world's greatest show and realize our theme of connecting minds, creating the future. At Expo 2020 Dubai, we want to use the power of collaboration to inspire ordinary people to make a difference, a key message that is driving everything that we do here. Together, we can all make Expo 2020 an unforgettable experience that inspires future generations in the UAE, Philippines, and all around the world to work together and to create a better future. We look forward to continuing to work side by side with you on our journey to the Expo 2020 Dubai. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Najib Al Ali, for those supportive words for the Philippine participation in next year's Expo. I know I speak on behalf of everyone when I say that we are all excited in anticipation for the world's greatest show. Now we'll move on to the main event, the unveiling of the scale model of the Philippines Pavilion. The theme and inspiration for the Philippine participation is Bangota, an ancient Tagalog word that means coral reef. The Philippines Pavilion was designed to resemble a coral reef, or Bangota, to reflect the Filipinos around the world who are connected by migration, technology, and travel. Without further ado, I would like to ask the following people to please join me on stage for the unveiling. Secretary Ramon Lopez, Ambassador Jaceline Quintana of the Philippines Embassy here in the UAE, Alternate Commissioner General of the Philippines at Expo 2020, Assistant Secretary Rosvi Gaitos of DTI, Consul General Paul Cortez from the Philippine Consulate General in Dubai, Executive Director Najib Al Ali, Theme Director and Principal Architect Royal Pineda, Content Creator Ms. Marian Rosas, Assistant Secretary Leah Buendia from the Department of Science and Technology, and Director Dominique Rubia Tute from the Department of Labor and Employment.
Excuse po. Excuse po.
Hi guys, if everyone can look here for a photo.
Bertie, we got your camera here.
Smile.
A round of applause for the international launch of the Philippines participation in Expo 2020 here in Dubai. And now I would like to request the organizing committee and esteemed guests to please stay on stage and gather for a group photo.
Scary.
All right, can I please have the organizing committee also please join us on stage for a photograph opportunity? Organizing committee, please join us on stage. All the organizing committee, please join us on stage.
Alright guys, squeeze in, squeeze in.
And then after this photograph, everyone will
Room on the
then
back
gather on
row.
stage for a large group photograph.
The room on the back row. Sweet. Okay, everyone look at me. 1, 2, 3.
Got you the camera.
Cheese. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Fantastic, guys. Thank you.
Can we get the contractors and the project management consultants to please come to the stage for a group photograph?
If you can sit down if you want.
No one leave the stage, please. We're just going to get larger and larger for each
Okay.
photograph.
Guys, you need to squeeze in on the back row.
Please everyone remain on stage, including the contractors and
Sorry
project
guys, I need to
management
come back.
consultants.
Move back. Sorry, mate. Move back. Move back, please. Move back, please. Alright, guys. Move back, please. Everyone squeeze in on the ends. There's room on the back row. Back row, please. Back row.
Please use the back row.
Not on the side.
Feel
No
free to
room
use
on
the
the
back
side.
row. We have
Back
space in the back
please.
row.
Guys, back row, there's no more room on the right. We can't see you. Squeeze in, squeeze in. Lovely. All right, everyone look at me. 1, 2, 3. Cheers. 1, 2, 3. No, look, please come back. Sorry. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Big smiles. 1, 2, 3. Fantastic.
Now, can we
Thank you.
please have everyone come to the stage for a large group photograph? Everyone, please come to the stage for a final group photograph.
Everyone. Everyone.
All right, everyone to the stage.
Please, everyone, gather on the stage for a final
Back
group
row, front
photograph.
row, kneeling in front. If you're not in line with the
Side as well,
stage, we
the
can't
left side of the
see you.
stage as well as the right side of the stage. Want a perfect symmetrical photograph, everyone. Please feel free to use the rear side of the stage.
Everyone needs to squeeze in on the side.
Squeeze in on the
Come
sides,
round
guys.
the front.
Squeeze in
Come
from
round
the
the front.
sides, more towards the
Sides, come
center.
around the front.
Let's
Come in
squeeze
front.
in toward the center, everyone.
Everybody needs to come back.
Let's be more centered, everyone.
Come back. Go around the
Maybe we can use the other side as well. Feel free to use the other side, gentlemen, if you need to. But let's just make sure everyone's on the sand. You should all be on the sand.
Okay, I'm over here, guys. Everyone look at me. Big smile, please. 1, 2, 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. 1, 2, 3. Queso. 1, 2, 3. Queso.
Can you guys can wave on the camera? This is video. Woo!
Right, keep going.
You can shout Expo 2020.
Queso.
With that, I would like to thank all of our guests and esteemed officials for joining us this morning. And once again, my name is Mohammed Al Torki, and it's been an honor hosting for all of you tonight. All of you this week. Please keep in mind that this is only just the beginning of the Philippines' journey towards the World Expo. We are calling for your continued support for the Philippines and all of those involved in announcing the country's participation in next year's Expo 2020. Thank you, and please don't forget to join us at the I Just Fountain News for the business events this afternoon in connection with the Philippines Expo 2025.
Sorry if I got in the way of your shot.
I'm trying.
No, you are not. You are happy. I brought the heart. The heart.
Kaya dito siya. Hindi siya ma-imagine sa akin. Naman tayong dalawa.
Porky and I'll be your host for this afternoon's proceedings all the way through the evening. We are happy to acknowledge the presence of dignitaries from the Philippines, led by Trade and Industry Secretary Ramon Lopez. There are almost 100 delegates from the Philippines comprised of government officials from the Philippine Organizing Committee, as well as private sector representatives who are keen to do business here in the United Arab Emirates. The principal members of the Philippine creative team are likewise here to present the breadth and width of Philippine preparations for the Expo 2020 in Dubai. We note the presence of media agencies, as well as press representatives from here and Manila. Thank you all for your support. Allow me to start the program by calling on Her Excellency Gracefully Quintana, the Philippine Ambassador to the United Arab Emirates, to deliver the welcome remarks and introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Mo. Distinguished officials from the Philippines, distinguished officials from the UAE ministries, guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to each and every one of you here at the media launch of the Philippine Pavilion for Dubai Expo 2020. Today marks the fruition of all the brainstorming and hard work made during the journey that all those present here have undergone together to ensure our country's participation in a major international event that will provide maximum positive exposure for our country, Dubai Expo 2020. As Ambassador to the Philippines to the UAE, I thank you all for working together to ensure that a pavilion will be built at the Expo site and that this pavilion will be a worthy representation of the hopes and potential of our rising country, an archipelagic country where 110 million people, a tenth of which live and work outside of it, and more than 700,000 of which are found here in the UAE, who have the energy and are working hard to continue building one of the fastest growing economies in East Asia, and is poised to be one of the most prosperous countries by the middle of this century. The Bangkota indeed is a worthy representation of who we are as a people and country, where we come from, what we are now, and the path we are taking towards the future. And now, this Bangkota will now start rising at Sustainability District of the Expo site, with the actual construction of it having started after the groundbreaking ceremony a little over an hour ago, or 2 hours ago. At this juncture, may I take this opportunity to introduce to you all a person whose extensive government experience with the Presidential Management Staff, DTI, and the National Economic Development Authority in the early part of his career provided him with a solid background on macroeconomic and industry development that allowed him to adopt a more holistic trade approach when he moved to the private sector and became a top executive of a major Philippine food and beverage company for over 23 years. With this experience, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte has entrusted him to man one of the most vital ministries in the Philippine government. I refer to no other than His Excellency Ramon M. Lopez, Minister of Trade and Industry, who shall be giving the keynote speech for this ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador Quintana, and to our fellow workers in government, our partners from the private sector, dear friends from media, the community, Filipino community here in Dubai and UAE. Friends, magandang hapon ho sa inyong lahat. Good afternoon. I would just basically be expressing our gratitude to everyone here in the room for really making this launch possible and then this media forum possible. Of course, I would recognize, of course, the wisdom of our president in saying yes to participating in World Expo Dubai 2020. At first, we were quite, well, frankly, personally, a bit hesitant because we were thinking that, Philippines may have to spend the money, let's say, better for social services and all the other requirements in the Philippines. But if you really think about it, we have a different Philippines of today. This is what we want to highlight and showcase and show the world and project the Philippines, that Philippines of today is different. We're no longer the basket case in Asia. We are a country of modern, progressive Filipinos, creative, talented, known worldwide for being, hardworking, and caring, compassionate, and as we always say, we are deeply connected worldwide, and that is the reason why we have this theme of Bangkota, which is coral reef, and like the coral reef, it's also interconnected worldwide, no, and it is really, you can see this, not only in one area, but really spread worldwide. And that is how it can best represent the Filipinos. And then the Filipinos that are also known to be, I guess, a very caring and hardworking at day, and they sing well at night. Diba? So, ang galing pa sa video, okay? So they're well-liked, well-loved in the workplace, and also, of course, they know that we have a highly needed families and families from here, let's say, from where they stay, and also connected pa rin in families back home. And the beauty, I guess, the benefit really of our participation was seen by the president to project really this kind of Philippines, a Philippines that is really a global nation, a global Philippines. And as you may know, the Philippines of today also is one of the fastest, second fastest growing in Southeast Asia. Our latest GDP would show that we have 6.2%, and so many countries are envious of that growth rate. Bihira na yan nowadays. You see almost everybody at the 1%, 2% growth rate. Even if you look at the exports, we're relatively resilient. Our unemployment rate has gone down to 4.5%. It's a record level unemployment rate. Used to be over 6%. We were at about 5.2% a couple of months back, but the latest number would show 4.5%. And during the administration of President Duterte, we started with a poverty incidence of about 26%. Midway, or close to midway, it went down to about 21%. And now the latest report is 16%. And our target is 14% by 2022, so we might even do better than that. No? The growth rate that we're seeing is also not just a regular growth rate. It's backed up by high-performing sectors like manufacturing, of course, services would be there, and agriculture has recently picked up also. And if you see on the other side of the GDP, even consumption spending still up, and investment capital formation is high. More so the construction services, which is backed up by this Build program. And I think they are all connected because with that Build infrastructure spending, aggressive infrastructure program, the more we are creating high demand for jobs, and that's the reason why unemployment started to go down. So imagine a population now of 108 to 110 million, young average age, 24 years old. And since many are employed, so you can sense that there is a growing middle class. But since they're very young on average, you can imagine that this can continue for many more years. Bata pa eh. So this can go on, this phenomenon can go on for many more years. And that means an ever-increasing consumer base.
And a consistently growing consumer base and a fast growth economy can only yield and attract more investments, and then investments coming in, creating more jobs, etc. So it becomes a virtuous cycle: jobs, income, further growth, jobs, income, further growth. So what we're seeing is a good momentum for Philippines, and it is but right for us really to project this kind of nation that we have. The Philippines, that's really fast growing, and a nation of very good Filipinos, or Filipinas for those who are gender sensitive. And it's just right that in a country that has more than 700,000 Filipinos, our president really made a good decision and of course with the help of Ambassador Quintana, made a good decision of strong participation in the Dubai 2020 Expo. We were supposed to have over about 1,000 square meters. This is really one of the biggest participation because we're now doing 3,180 square meters. And we're near the central area, which will be presented later, will be explained further. But that just shows how important our country is right now, and how the country is also treated by the government of Dubai. The Philippines given the preference also of having this very good location in the Expo. So the Expo is, again, by far one of the biggest participation. And the pavilion also would feature the most comprehensive, unique representation of the Philippine creative industry. We've been pushing for creative industry, more of this design. Design really adds value to many things that we do. It goes beyond the functionality of a product, and it gives certain joy and contentment once there are this other dimension like coming from creativity and design. And it is really an important, I guess, a competitive edge for Filipinos and the Philippines. So this is one area where without any effort from government, the creative industry and services in general would account for one half of what the performance for goods exports would be. Our exports for goods is in a year, about $65 to $70 billion. Without any help, the creative industry is hitting about $40 billion. So you can imagine if we put more effort into this, if we give more emphasis on design growth, and make the world be aware that by showcasing Philippines here in Dubai 2020 Expo, they'll see that, iba pala ang Pilipinas. Ang ganda pala gumawa. Maganda. The treatment is so nice, and the awareness will definitely be increasing. A tremendous goodwill that we see here. And in fact, not to mention, of course, if you take a look at the financial payback, I'm sure this will pay back in the forms of more revenues for exports. Products can also be promoted, although that's not the main content of the exhibit. But certainly there will be product promotion on the side, even the food. There will be experience that will allow them to experience Filipino food, cuisines, and of course more on the arts and creativity that will be integrated and embedded in the pavilion. So they will see a different Philippines, no longer a basket case, but really a global Philippines. And we'll allow the presentations later to explain why the Filipinos deserve to have this kind of projection. And it's about time. And we are in a good momentum, a good run. Our economy is really blossoming, and more reforms are being undertaken. I won't go through these reforms, but certainly this will be a set of reforms that will sustain our growth further, even beyond the Duterte administration. So we're just so happy that we're part of this activity, this program that will certainly put the Philippines back on a map, and definitely will leave a good reputation and I guess memories that going through the Bangkota Pavilion, they'll experience a different Philippines. I would just like to thank, of course, our partners, sila Royal, Buji, Marian, the interagency, DOST, DOLE, marami pa. DOT, of course, DOT, actually DOT ang vice chair. Sa totoo lang, binibigay namin sa DOT yung chairmanship when the government was planning for this. But I don't know, the OP assigned it to DTI. But we were nominating DOT to chair this. But definitely we'll be supporting. But nevertheless, since it's with DTI, it's a whole of government and eventually a whole of nation approach as we tie in all this support from various agencies. Of course, the DTI family, BOI, SITEM, DOST, everybody putting in, and of course the community of the Filipinos here in Dubai. I understand that many of you will be involved in one way or the other, either in the construction or also in the operations of many of the facilities that will be made available during the 6-month Expo. And I hope we can invite our respective families to visit Dubai para ma-experience nila. However, yung hindi makapunta dito, we all know that after this, the 6-month Expo, this structure of Bangkota will be brought back to the Philippines. Meron na tayong lugar sa Clark. Vince Dizon of BCDA, President Vince, has allocated the place for us so where we can put back and reassemble the Bangkota so the Filipinos can get to experience also the beautiful Bangkota and everything in it, the experience inside. Okay, and siguro yung iba dito will be expressed or explained by Asa Crosby as to, you know, the status. We're just piece of good news that we are at least ahead of the schedule. We have closed the deals or after bidding and all that, meron na tayong contractor, meron na tayong lahat ng kailangang mga outsourced services that can put this into reality. And of course, this will be Dubai 2020. We will have a national day scheduled on March of 2021. And hopefully we will have the President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, to be our special guest of honor sa March 2021, which would be what, the 500 years ba? Tama ba? Of 500 years, not of the discovery of Philippines, but the discovery by the Filipinos of the Western culture. No? So tayong nakadiscover sa kanila. And then on the side, of course, the harsher term is 500 years of the invasion of the Philippines. So it's not the discovery of the Philippines. So yun lang, the government is definitely behind this project. We just got the budget approval. Of course, the entire budget approval yesterday. At kasama doon yung budget natin for this project. And we will certainly invite all those our leaders and many of our countrymen to enjoy the Dubai 2020 Expo, especially visiting the Philippines Pavilion. So maraming salamat to. Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, Secretary Lopez. Today has been a hectic day for the Philippine delegation, which started with the program launch at the Expo site this morning, followed by this media launch. Immediately after, there will be a roundtable meetings between the Philippines and the UAE, where we can expect official as well as private business issues to be discussed in earnest. To proceed with our program, may we call on DTI Assistant Secretary Rosvi Gaitos, who is likewise the alternate Commissioner General for the Philippines, to give us a background as well as update on the Philippines' participation in the Expo 2020 in Dubai.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The Philippines has been a regular participant in World Expos. since 1962. But our participation in this particular expo here in Dubai is highly significant since it will be one of many firsts for the country. We are located at the Expo's Sustainability District, and the Philippines will be the biggest, as mentioned by the Secretary, on a 3,163 square meter lot in the history of our participation in World Expos. For the first time, too, the Philippines is being built from the ground up, or from the desert up, okay, through a design and build consortium led by our appointed contractor, Rock Contracting Company, and a very efficient project management team led by the LCP and partners. They are here, Giorgio and Anastasia. Thank you very much. Yes. In an unprecedented move, the pavilion is designed with 8 thematic areas in a bold attempt to convey a message to change mindsets and perceptions of our countrymen and that of the world. The pavilion's thematic expressions of cultural sustainability, connectivity, and permeability will be presented in unique art forms interpreted by an unusual mix of Philippine artists from different sectors of the Philippine creative industry. This expo is doubly significant because of the huge presence of Filipinos in the UAE who can actually be mobilized not only as a workforce, but likewise as a formidable customer and consumer, and as well as a participant in the expo. The theme of the Philippine participation, as you all know by now, is Bangkota, an ancient Filipino word for coral reef. And we chose this theme as we felt that it is a tribute and a perfect manifestation of the 1.2 million Filipinos in the Middle East, of which 700,000 are living and working here in the UAE. At the same time, the coral reef became the inspiration behind the architecture and design of the pavilion by Buji Royal, and the foundation of the exhibition content curated by Marian Roses. You will hear more about the design philosophy and the visitor journey from our creative team later. Another first for the Philippines, again mentioned by our secretary, is our legacy plan to bring back the pavilion to the Philippines in Clark Freeport Zone as a permanent exhibit to enable more Filipinos to experience the visitor journey presented by the Philippines at the Dubai Expo. The Basis Conversion Development Authority is allocating an area in Clark to house the Philippines Pavilion that will be reconstructed as close to the original as possible by Mr. Royal Pineda. The Philippines National Day is also confirmed on March 16, 2021. Again, for the first time, it will not just be a one-day celebration for all Filipinos in the UAE. We are blocking off 5 days, as instructed by the Secretary, from March 15 to 19 as our Philippine National Week. We are working closely with the Programming Committee of the Expo Bureau in organizing a series of headline events during this week that will involve the Filipino communities here in the UAE and in the Middle East, and we are very excited to collaborate with them. We have appointed a technical consultant for performing arts, a production team, and commissioned our national artists for music to undertake the massive mobilization for the National Week celebration. We are blessed with an unbelievable creative team who is working hard to deliver the dream. Thank you to Royal and Marianne, who've been with me from day one of planning for this expo. I'm happy also to announce, fresh from our meeting yesterday with Madame Lucille Ong the year, who helped me, the addition of fashion designer Ezra Santos, who will now be our pavilion outfitter, and he will be a very good addition to our creative team. We are grateful to our partners who share our vision and have come forth to help shape our participation. Of course, the Basis Conversion Development Authority under Vice Dizon, who will rebuild the Philippines Pavilion in Clark. Philippine Airlines is set to be our official carrier, so we're looking forward to working closely with them. Mr. Bong is here, no? Philippine Airlines representative, yes, thank you. Our partner restaurant operator is the famous Razons. We just signed a contract with them about a week ago. of Pampanga, who will offer authentic cuisine of the islands. We acknowledge the presence of Mr. Joey Razon from the Razon family. Yes. Razon is a much-loved brand in the Philippines, which has 4 outlets actually here in the UAE, and they're doing really, really well. Our retail partner operator is Cipreya International, a longtime exporter and manufacturer from the island of Cebu, and run by a mother and daughter team. I acknowledge Miss Janet Chua, who flew in from Cebu. They will run the boutique that will carry both the Go Local brand for handcrafted products and souvenirs, as well as the luxury fashion brand Marahuyo. Our marketing communications team will be led by BBDO Guerrero, who is tasked with building and maintaining relationships with our primary stakeholders here and back in Manila. They will inform, they will persuade, they will motivate global audiences to come visit the Philippine Pavilion at the Expo for many, many reasons, foremost of which is for the total experience of design, art, culture, combined with shopping and authentic Filipino food. Our messaging to the world will push our goals of participation, pushing a country brand anchored on a creative, caring, and compassionate people. Likewise, promoting our business interest in this region, emphasizing our trade, tourism, and investment objectives. Last but not least, we are grateful to the member agencies, again, comprising the Philippine Organizing Committee, who are supporting the DTI and delivering a successful participation under the leadership of Secretary Ramon Lopez and the guidance of our dear Ambassador Joy Quintana and our Consul General Paul Cortez. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have a complete Philippines team ready to deliver a most incredible journey come October 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Secretary Gaitos. Up next, we call on the Theme Director and Principal Architect for the Philippines Pavilion to share his vision as well as philosophy with us. His design and architecture for the pavilion has been receiving positive as well as rave reviews from the design community. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Royal Pineda.
Thank you. This is quick. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Very exciting day for all of us. No? We're very excited with this morning's event. And first, I would like to congratulate everybody, all the Filipinos, for being able to close the SEA Games and host the SEA Games. That was a very good event for us. And now we are going to be, we have won also the best terminal airport in the world for the World Architectural Festival. And now the next one is like we're presenting to the world who are the real Filipinos, no, the modern Filipinos. So I'm here to share with you the philosophy and the roots of this Bangkota. And just to give you a background, of course, my business partner here, Buji, we are here to actually bring and share with everybody the roots of our creations, no? Not just for Bangkota, but in almost every project that we do. We need to celebrate what is Filipino and what is modern about the Filipinos today, no? And with this, we needed to define what's modernity. And modernity is not about the materials, it's never about the technology alone, but it's really about betterment in general. It is about the lifestyle, it is the way we think, it is the way we see things. That is for us, modernity. And so, we needed to define what is also Filipino, to be able to move forward and do all our things and our creations that is very much towards authenticity. So, being Filipino needs to be rooted. It needs to be clear. Because we will not be able to present something to the world if it's not clear. If we ourselves are confused, we cannot present ourselves truthfully to the world. And with this, the truthful process is very important. No? And this also guided us in presenting something that is for the world to see, which is our bangkota. So when we were tasked by the government to do this project, again, it's not easy to come up with something that will be in front of the whole world. But then the philosophy came in, and these are the philosophies that we'll share with you, that Buji Royal believed in the nature of things, that everything evolves and nature will always be in charge. So we believe in nature being peace. This is the very core of what we do. And in that concept of being able to understand nature, that even a volcano erupting is peaceful. This very route led us to identifying what is so related to sustainability. Now, because right now, the Philippine Pavilion sits in sustainability. And when I was giving, also sharing this philosophy in the sustainability talk during the Dubai Expo sustainability discussion, this was presented to everybody. And when everybody's doing all the technology and they're all doing the very high-tech and I would say very scientific and technological projects, we are here presenting something that's very cultural. So man is nature is a concept, a philosophy that we believe that is never about duality, but it's about being one. No? So it's never man and nature, but man is nature. And to be able to present this bangkota truthfully, we have to present and understand our variety as people to the world. We are here not to compete, as bangkota is actually here to present itself as honest as it can be. We are here to present ourselves as Filipinos of today, and we are here to present our sensibilities of today. So the nature of the Philippines, when we were trying to figure out what's to present, we are not technologically very advanced. We don't have much of this technological supports. But we have something that is very natural to us, our people, which is globally known and recognized with a very distinct identity and personalities. So what we felt is that if everybody in the world is talking about something that's tangible and something that's about materials and construction, we are talking about people. So we ended up coming up with cultural sustainability and talk about our people and how humanity should also consider sustainability of their own culture and identities. So bangkota came out, and as discussed a while ago, it is the ancient Tagalog word for coral reef. And as mentioned, like the Filipinos, the coral reefs are all over the world. Though they are the smallest, but they're actually the biggest also organisms in the world because it's all over. It's like the Filipinos. You sit in the bar, somebody comes to you, a Filipino, Tagalog, Filipino. Even in the airports, you get surprised with all the Filipinos all over the place. So this is who we are. This is what we are. And again, we are just presenting ourselves. We are not trying to create a story that is not about us. This is about us. We are the center of the marine biodiversity of the world. This is something that we own. This is something that we can carry. And this is something that we can be proud of. So, as we define Filipino, when we were thinking of putting up something here in Dubai, we said we're not going to build the Bahay Kubo. In fact, we will bring the philosophy of the Bahay Kubo, the philosophy and its essence. How Juan de la Cruz built the Bahay Kubo, it was very truthful. So as truthful as we can, we are building the Bangkota with the technology of Dubai, what's available in Dubai, the materials in Dubai, and how practical we can build this in Dubai. And we have to coin it. We have to come up with a philosophy, a concept that will be carried out not just for Bangkota, but this is for the Philippines. Because we believe that the Philippines, we don't need to wait for us to be first world to enjoy luxury. We can live in luxury by design. So materials can be very simple. Materials can be very humble. But then the luxury comes in the Filipinos' creativity, the Filipinos' talent, and the Filipinos' spirit in designing. So this is happening. This is going to be happening in the landscape. We are bringing in plants that thrives in Dubai, that also simulates the colors and the elements of the underwater marine world of the Philippines. We are presenting the very honest materials, and again, very practical. That's all available in Dubai. We're playing with the concrete, with the mesh. These mesh are available, the things that you see around. You can even buy this in the depots. And we're using metal panels, sandwich panels that are again, architecturally designed to be able to be modular and be able to bring back to Clark. The modularity of it is something that is very critical for us to put together. First, again, this celebrates practical luxury, and this, again, should be as precise to represent the modernity of the Filipinos. We are done with mata-mata, or the hula-hula. We are done with tansya-tansya, or yung kahit ano na lang. We are the Filipinos of precision. We are Filipinos of accuracy. We are here to present our science, our presentation of how we read the sun. As ancient as before, our ancestors are using them as inspirations. How we play with the wind and how we collect the light will all happen in Bangkota. This is just going back to the celebration of who we are as Filipinos. So for now, we'll show you a little bit of a video of how this will be built. Again, there is modern bayanihan happening in this project of Bangkota. The modern bayanihan is not limited to the Filipinos, but this extends to the world, because we can never refine our country if we are not going to open ourselves to more technology and to know and understand that we need to learn from others too. That is part of the variety of the world, the understanding that we Filipinos, we have our gifts, but we also need to understand and respect the variety of others, wherein the technology that they offer is something that is available, practical, so we can embrace it and do it here in Dubai. These are all construction of the steel components, because these will all be disassembled and be put together back in Clark. So again, the accuracy, the precision will be part of what is Filipinos are today. So if you say modern as a Filipino, for example, the time, no? The concept of time. If you say Filipino time became something that's always been, as an impression, always late. But as a modern Filipino and a modern time, we will always be ahead, or at least be on time. So technology, as we do it together with our partners, will be part of this whole concept of Bangkota. So the construction is again started. This morning we just broke grounds. And thank you to RAQ for giving us a very good start this morning, because they kidnapped me from our event, and we're able to approve some of their samples. So that's how we will build it. No? It doesn't end there. As I mentioned, and as Secretary mentioned, and Yusek also mentioned that we are bringing this back to Clark. Why? Because we believe that the next generation should understand and know the concept and the idea that we're trying to say and trying to send as a message. Wherein our history is not limited with the 500 years of the Spanish colonial times, by the American times, by the Japanese times, but it goes back far, far, way back, 4,000, and even actually thousands of years. So our real history as Filipinos are actually based on nature. No? Our real inspiration is nature. Our freedom that we can achieve once we're able to say that our history is rooted from the islands, from the beautiful rivers, from the beautiful landscape and forest of the Philippines. All the creativity is ours to enjoy, and all the identity is ours to take as Filipinos. So with this, I would like to show you a run-through of the experience of the visitors inside the Bangkota. Sorry. What's next? It's not showing. Can you show the video, please? Don't click. Okay, please. Thanks. Okay. We will have our restaurants, the restaurant and the cafe. Again, the artists will be, we will have all our artists put all over the place. And again, this is to show and exhibit our Filipino creativity, no? Collaborating with many artists. Later, Ms. Marian Roses will explain some of these experiences. So the philosophy is there. No? The idea of nature is peace, man is nature, the variety of the world, and the gift to the world will be here as part of what the Philippine Pavilion is hosting. We are hosting a philosophy that is global. No? This will bring all of us together as people, and not just as a nation, but as people together. All of this art, this creation will be designed by our artists and will be again in collaboration with our contractor here in Dubai. Will be created and put together. So again, there is what we're trying to show to the world is that the technology that's available globally is good for all of us to be with and collaborate with to create a better product for the whole world. As Filipinos, we can be tapped by international, by other countries because of our creativity. This is what we want to present. It doesn't mean that because we do not have the concept of having the technology back home, we are limited from creating. This is putting us all globally and presenting ourselves that we can be a better collaborator to any country, as long as we have our creativity. The mesh will be creating all the patterns on the floor and on the texture, and it's also part of the sunscreen that we created to also manage the exposure from the sun. So this will be Filipino artists. We will be tapping all the good furniture designers of the Philippines, the best of the Philippines, to create a more eclectic mix of Philippine furnishings, and our crafts, our creations will be all experienced by the world. We will house Marahuyo, the luxury brand of the Philippines, for the products. We have progressed. Now, our products is not anymore in that ethnic level. We are already in a very, very progressive approach of design, and part of this Marahuyo, this will be our platform to present globally that sensibility of a modern Filipino design. So as mentioned by Sec a while ago, Bangkota is not just a building. It's not just an architecture. It will be an emblem or a symbol of freedom of the Filipinos through architecture and design. We are presenting ourselves with freedom. We are thinking way, way ahead of what we've been known for. We are already progressing. And I think the idea here is to be able to get, again, in touch with nature and present that very authentic part of us as a country. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Architect Pineda, for letting us into your creative process. As important as it is on the outside, the pavilion is equally important on the inside. And for that, we are honored to have museum curator and anthropologist, Miss Marianne Rosas, to take us on a journey inside the pavilion.
I have a spare mic. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. It's an honor to be here and to follow the series of talks which have given you a sense of what to expect starting October 2020. My role here is to give you a sense of the content. What is it exactly that we are presenting to the world? Who is this Filipino that Royal has been referring to as our authentic self, our honest self. This is the task of the curatorial process, and I'd like to walk you through the exhibitions, which begins with my introducing to you the basic concepts. It begins with a word that Royal mentioned several times. The word is honesty. As you know, the pavilion already speaks of what we can afford. We are not trying to be the world's most expensive showcase, but this is who we are. We have been able to make something that flies and that sings with what we can afford. And I think that's where we begin. And as you can see, it's already beginning to fly. Now, let me go to the next slide, please. The next two words that we need to keep in mind are the two words of the Expo itself: sustainability and connectivity. I'd like to say a couple of sentences about connectivity. When this was broached to us as the Expo theme, it was like winning the lottery. The Filipinos are actually the most connected people on earth, in a manner of speaking. We, for better or for worse, spend more than 10.5 hours a day online. There are more telephones in the hands of Filipinos than there are Filipinos. And connectivity is something that seems to be quite obsessive and passionate. And we seem to be living in a world in which we can be anywhere on earth, but still connected to each other, and still connected to what makes us who we are. So that's the first word. We are therefore addressing the Expo itself, its wish to focus on connectivity by presenting the Filipino as a very connected person. The second word is sustainability. And we have taken this word of the Expo and we have brought it to what Architect Royal has said, the sustainability of our culture. The fact that we have been this way for a very long time, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story that we're going to present. All right. Shall we move on a few slides? This deck is going to be given in the kit, so there's really no need for all of us to actually go through the text. Let's just move forward with this presentation. The sculptures that you will see are doing a job. I'll tell you what that job is all about. We have put together the scientific data about the Philippines from archaeology, linguistics, anthropology, a little bit of history, because as you know, history is about written records, and so we are not looking at the 500 years, as was mentioned earlier. So what we're going to try to do in this pavilion is to go and collect all the scientific data and present it to update the story of the Filipino. Okay. This story is unfamiliar to many in the world, but this is precisely the moment and the platform in which it can be presented to the world. All right. Presented to the world via art, architecture, and design. So, may I reiterate, we have gathered the science and we're delivering the narrative through art, architecture, and design. All right. So here is a sculpture, one of the commissioned artists. His name is Dudley Diaz, and he's well known for sculpture in marble and stone. What he has done here is to inaugurate in this pavilion the idea of of contemporary Filipinos with a mythological imagination, that our imaginations are still mythological even as we are modern, that the modernity of the Philippines actually includes everything in the past. Please move on. As we enter, we see that major piece, and then towards the left, please move on. there will be another sculpture which now hopes to relate to people the idea that technology, mythology, modernity, and Filipino-ness can come together. It's a completely contemporary sculpture that is mythological and technological at the same time. The artist is Dan Rarallo. He is a famous sculptor. And this is a space that was in the plan from day one. Let's now move into the pavilion. As I said earlier, the material, the narrative is unfamiliar. And so we wanted to stress the unfamiliar even more. We wanted to, in effect, create a platform in which we could receive new knowledge. So the first room is nearly completely dark. It has an upside-down forest. It has a slightly destabilizing effect. The person coming in will see in the darkness images from underwater photography of tiny animals that are incredibly large and are rather confronting. They flash in the darkness. These are not photoshopped animals. These are actual animals, but very strange. And we wanted that strangeness to be the beginning of a journey in which we can begin to receive new data. I'm about to get to the new data. So having made things slightly unstable, we can move on. The next area, which you will see there, is a transition area. And here, there's rain. This is the upside-down forest. Please move past the upside-down forest. The artist is Lee Pahe. She's a woman. And then the next one is rain. Through rain, it's just a passage. From the first area, which is dark and unsettling, we now get people to settle down. There will be an apparition of two ancestral figures. They are figures from deep time. 4,000 years ago, they arrived in the Philippine archipelago's north, not south. The arrival of Philippine peoples was from the north. And so the representation of these people who scientists call Austronesians was an occurrence with a very secure date of 4,000 years ago. All right. Having introduced the 4,000-year time frame of the creation of the person that will become the Filipino, we now move into a central figure in the next room, which is a boat. This was created by the artist Patrick Cabral, topographical and layered boats. But if you look at the details of the boat, you will see more boats. On the sail of this boat will be projected a video map of the 4,000 years in which the people who arrived in the north of the Philippines, in Batanes, developed hundreds of languages. The Philippines speaks 175 languages today. Our oldest heritage are our languages. They're not dialects, they're languages. And the sea has been home to these peoples and these languages. So the Austronesian movement of people from the north to the south, which we will tell on the sail of this boat, will include the peopling not only of the Philippine archipelago, but the Indonesian archipelago, Malaysia, and 3,000 years ago, the entire Pacific Ocean. 2,000 years ago, the movement to Madagascar. The world of the Austronesian people extends from Madagascar to Easter Island, including Tahiti, Samoa, and the Maori of New Zealand. This is the Austronesian world, 175 languages spoken in the Philippines, 350 plus languages spoken in Indonesia and Malaysia, and a total of 1,275 languages, all one family, spoken from Madagascar to Easter Island, all of whom came from the Philippines. This is our story. This is a big story. This is the reconstruction that is provided to us by the consensus of archaeology, linguistics, anthropology. And this is the first time it is going to be presented in a global platform. Very quickly, in a very artistic boat. Shall we now move on? The next room is a tall and narrow room that is like the funnel of a large waterfall. In this room are the combination of bird-like people, or people who are half bird, half man, again insisting on the fact that up to today, as modern human beings, we still have our mythical imagination. And this is how we present poetically, artistically, the statement, the assertion that sustainability and cultural sustainability as an entire phrase, as an entire idea, is the ability of Filipinos to carry modernity and the past at the same time. That we carry all of it with us. All right. So the variety of peoples of the Philippines will be evoked in the variety of the ways these creatures that are deep diving, and the idea here is a deep dive into the deep past. All right. We now shift into what will be the climax exhibit. It's very simple, and you will see it's a helix. It's the DNA. Why? We move back deeper. Like I said, we deep dive. And then enter this room because before 4,000 years ago, with the arrival of the Austronesian-speaking peoples, before that, there were human beings in the Philippine archipelago. And the date is a staggering 65,000 years. There have been people in the Philippine archipelago for 65 or 66,000 years. Now, where the Austronesian story is a story of boats, a story of water, a story of people moving from one island to another, from the Philippine archipelago all the way to the entire Pacific Ocean, the story of the 65,000 years are about people who walked. They walked from Africa. So when the Austronesian navigators arrived, there were people who have been there for millennia. People who have walked through the Asian continent all the way to the Philippines at the edge of Asia. Of course, they can't walk any further because it's the Pacific Ocean. Now, the important part of this narrative, and as you can see, the title of this area is Our Gift to the World. How can we say such a provocative title, Our Gift to the World? That's a name that was given by Asek Rosby. And I'll tell you right now what our gift is, if you'll give me a few more sentences. So, everybody in the last 65,000 years that have lived in the Philippines had blended with each other. People who arrived and walked from Africa through all of those thousands of years intermarried with the Austronesian arrivals. So that today, geneticists are telling us, and this is the latest from genetics, that every Filipino is the product of an amalgamation of all of the above. African, Austronesian speakers, people who came from nearby the Philippine archipelago, and that we cannot even begin to speak about race. We are everyone. And our gift to the world is to say and to assert that the modern Filipino, the Filipino of today, is saying to the world, let's stop talking about race. Let's stop talking about divisions. Filipinos are people with everything inside our DNA. We carry 65,000 years of genetic material from different parts of the world. We carry in our bodies languages that have been spoken for 4,000 years. We carry in our heads mythology that had been around for thousands of years. And we carry what we learned from people who arrived 500 years ago, from Europe, from China, from the United States. We carry it inside us. So our gift to the world is the assertion, the statement, let us not even talk about race. It's a big message. It's a message from a people who has accepted who we are. All right? The pavilion ends there. We are using, obviously, we are taking the opportunity of a world platform to give a message that goes back to nature, as Architect Pineda says. This is the nature that we carry in our bodies. This is the nature that we learn from. And what does nature teach us? It teaches us to be connected to each other. It teaches us to sustain ideas that have been around for thousands of years and to recreate them so that we can become who we need to be in the future. This is a pavilion that speaks to the world about how to approach the problems of the world by understanding the nature of things. Back to nature. All right, so the Philippine Pavilion, it has a narrative, but it will be told by the force of art, by the force of design, and the force of architecture. Outside, if you move out, you've seen a little bit of it, you'll see more art. It's happy art. It doesn't carry this incredibly profound narrative outside. Do we still have slides of the outside? You've seen the outside in any case. So you will find sculptures in the Imaginarium ramp, which hopes the artist is Charlie Ko. The other one is Dex Fernandez, who has made the mural that you've seen. And on top, the big sculpture, which you can enter, is by Toym Imao. Any questions about the artists, I'm happy to answer. But in any case, I'd like to end this brief presentation by saying, our story, we believe, has major implications for the world. Our story, first of all, has major implications to Filipinos, because we now know that we cannot think of ourselves as divided. We have to think of ourselves as linked. But we have naturally done it. We have linked to each other, not just through the telephone, but also to the banking system and via a number of things that have allowed for this interconnectivity. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Philippine Pavilion in an expo on sustainability and on connectivity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Rosal, for that wonderfully passionate presentation. And thank you for giving us a sneak peek at what visitors can expect when they visit the Philippines Pavilion when it opens its doors in October of next year. We now are going to open the floor to questions, and for that, I would like to introduce Ms. Patricia Malay from the Expo. So please join me on stage.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Thank you, Mo, for hosting. I'm sure you all enjoyed the presentations. We're going to just give time for our staff to put the chairs up here in the front. Don't also forget just a little bit of housekeeping for our friends from the media. Your press kits, okay? So on your way out, make sure to go to the registration table. All of the presentations that you saw will be included there. There's a press release. There's also a fact sheet. And all of the information that you need to write your stories will be there as well. And we have this Q&A that we'll be doing in the next few minutes. We would like to call back on the stage 4 of our speakers that you saw up here today. They want you to be on the floor, yeah. Okay, so we'd like to call on Ms. Marian Rosas once again to come back on stage. Architect Royal Pineda, please join her. we will also call on ASEC Rosby Gaitos, please, to come up on stage, and Sec Mon Lopez again. So we have our microphones on the floor. If anybody has questions, you can just approach the microphone, please. Introduce yourself and let us know what media outfit you're from so everybody knows who's in the room with us. We'll open the floor now. Hello. 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 Okay. Anyone? Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yes, please. So that we all hear your voice and know who you are.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon po. Welcome to Dubai. Once again, Sec, Madam Sec. My name is Jojo Das. I'm from the Filipino Times. Siguro for starters, could we have an assessment, an appraisal of what's going on so far at the site and how far are we with the project po? Kung sino po yung pwede.
Okay, we just came from the site and we were able to inspect it, and we have been meetings with our contractor and project management consultant. We are apparently about 2 to 3 weeks ahead of schedule. We have possessed the plot, all right, ahead of schedule. Am I right, Giorgio? No? And we have done site establishment. So rock contracting has already established the site at the plot, and we have been given the go signal for earthworks. So we're doing that. We're in the earthwork stage, and we expect that the pavilion will be ready by July 20, and they will turn over the pavilion to us, to DTI, by September 10, which is actually right on the schedule of the Expo organizers. We're not nervous yet, Jojo. We're very, very confident.
It's too early to be nervous. We have another question from the lady.
Good afternoon. I'm Maricar from the Gulf Today, and hearing the presentation of Mr. Royal and Miss Marian, it's like, nakakaiyak.
Wow.
Personally, I'm very touched. It's very heartwarming because, modesty aside, I'm covering the ASEAN beat. So along with Consul General Paul Raymond Cortez, we were exposed to what Thailand and Indonesia will be featuring at Expo 2020 Dubai. I was surprised that I was invited. I got surprised because I got an invitation from Finland, Business Finland, to go to Finland. And there I met all of the companies, over 100 companies participating, startups to established Finnish companies that will be participating at a highly advanced Finnish pavilions called Snow Cape. Consul General and I were also invited at the diplomatic reception of Korea, and we saw Korea Pavilion. And everything of these pavilions are looking towards future technology, what they can offer to the world as a technologically advanced country. So when I heard this, oh my God, and having come from that SEA Games, hurrah, I said, wow, this is something new. And it's very refreshing that we as a Filipinos, that, we cannot, it's sometimes we are being looked down because of, But with this, it's a very good presentation of what the Philippines is historically and what the Philippines can do for the world. So thank you so much. And now, Sir Secretary Ramon Lopez, with the participation of Filipinos from the Philippines and from the United Arab Emirates, may we know the number of Filipino companies, their nature, which will be participating here? Like, are there going to be startups, well-established companies? Because entrepreneurship is a very big thing here in the region. Everybody is going entrepreneurial. So I want to know about that, sir. And Miss Marianne, what's the profile? How did you go about? How did you go about selecting the sculptors? Thank you.
Okay, so that's two questions, and maybe Mon can answer first.
The entrepreneurship revolution is very much alive in the Philippines. We've had that program and even an advocacy for over 10 years, and we've been pushing for a general change in mindset of many Filipinos, no? Even prior to my life in DTI. So certainly we will be involving companies, entrepreneurs, even startup companies that we are nurturing right now. We have new laws also about this that will further strengthen our program. They may not be part of what has been planned inside the very nice pavilion because it, as you heard, ibang purpose no ng pavilion, and we have a slightly different message. But all of this interaction, showcasing also our entrepreneurs, the modern Filipinos of today, the innovative, future-oriented, can be well expressed and even experienced with greater interaction as we do many of the events in the span of 6 months. So part of the events siya. No? So that, and there'll be more fora that will be mounted. As even during that week, we were told that even in that central forum or structure, we will have that as an events place. So that is where we will mount several interaction or fora para sa mga entrepreneurs to interact and network with the rest of the world. So yun yung program natin.
All right, thank you for the question. Before answering the question, I'd like to say that we don't only have sculptors and a painter. We have animation people. We have a number of designers. Name it, we've put them together. Yung mga video, there we have a lot of video people that's involved in this. So we have actually tried to be as inclusive as possible with all of the cultural industries. All right, but the actual central works of art were chosen from the perspective of a curator, which is myself, who wants to deliver a narrative. No, it doesn't begin with, I want this artist or that artist. It begins with, there's a narrative, it's very important, it's very scientific, and very difficult. So you need to ask who can deliver this part of the narrative. Not by challenging the artist to make something totally new. You have to choose an artist who's already doing something that is close to what you want to deliver.
Thank you.
So you get a sculptor who already does contemporary modern mythology. You get an artist like that already, who's known to be very good at it. So you see, it doesn't begin with, I like this artist or I like that artist. It begins with, what's the narrative and who is already doing something that will help push forward the narrative.
Thank you for that, Ms. Marian. We have a few more questions, but we will excuse Sec Mon because the bilateral meetings have started. Okay, sige. Ms. Tina Dumlao from the Philippine Daily Inquirer. Can we hand her the microphone, please?
Hi. Actually, I just wanted a bit of context. When was the last time we participated, and why is it that we participate in an expo? And especially for Dubai, because I know that they have their own program why they wanted this Dubai 2020 to be really special, and it's a nice sounding year. So I was wondering what was their plan and how we fit into their plan, and then how we want to, what makes this special, in other words.
We participated in the Shanghai World Expo in 2010. And then 2 years after that, we went to the Specialized Expo in Yosu. So that was the last. We did not participate in 2015 in Milan. There was another direction for the Aquino administration then. And finally, we're back in the World Expo. And I guess what the secretary mentioned a while ago, the compelling reason really is the presence of the 700,000 Filipinos here who will really benefit from our participation after 5 years.
Parang with
After 10 years po.
in effect, yeah. At saka with the strong presence of Filipinos in the communities here in UAE, and with 190 plus countries participating, parang baka mas it's harder to explain if you're not part of this. You really have to be part of this, no? With 800 plus thousand here. Parang imagine if we're not here, and the 190 other countries are here. And then we have the what? The third largest foreign workers here. So dapat talaga nandito tayo. So it was a good move by the president.
Yes, thank you, Sec Mon Lopez. Let's all give him a round of applause. Okay. We have a few more minutes for more questions, as I'm sure some of our guests still have questions. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Beth Climaco de Guzman from GMA Network. My question would be, you just mentioned that there's 7,000 strong Filipinos here residing in the UAE right now. With us participating in the Expo 2020, how do you think it will directly help or impact the lives of those Filipinos that are living here right now?
Our national narrative has always been slightly self-conscious, mainly because we have not updated our science. So now that we're updating our science and we're asking art to deliver it, we're hoping that this narrative of a people who have sustained themselves for 4,000 years and have pretty much occupied one half of the planet will be a story that they will find joy in, to begin with. The second thing is the actual knowledge. If we've been moving for 4,000 years on boats, and we add that to the data today, which says that 1 out of every 3 Filipinos, 1 out of every 3 sailors on Earth is a Filipino. That's a staggering number. You can actually argue that the movement of the Austronesian peoples, the movement of Philippine peoples has not stopped, even after 4,000 years. So on a data level, on the level of pure data, there's the hope that our workers here will find themselves to be part of a truly epic story.
Yes. One more question.
Hi, I'm Lalaine Benitez from Ilustrada magazine. First of all, congratulations on the very compelling narrative. For a person who has been outside the Philippines and living here for the last almost 30 years, this really hits, the heart, like Maricar was saying, because you cannot imagine the kind of struggle we have just to try and promote a more progressive view of the Philippines. I liked her question and wanted to ask a little bit more on that. Do you think this is going to change the perception not only of our people? What do you hope to gain from the world, not just from the Philippine community here? Is there anything there in terms of objective? Are you hoping that this is going to, like she said, create more jobs, give us favorable chances out there? Is there any objective there?
Well, as you can see, it's multi-layered. We took science and we are delivering it through art and architecture and design and food and other things and animation, et cetera, et cetera. In doing that, first of all, you've got the layer of let's show the world how great we are at all of these things, because we obviously are quite great at doing that. We also want to want those people who are in the creative industries to know that they do belong to a global community of creative people, what Asek Roseby always calls the creative movement of Filipinos. That's one level. The other level is if we're able to handle science and deliver it through art, that's kind of really high-end stuff. And it's a signal to the world that we actually know how to do complex things, very complex things. And I think Royal can add to that.
I would like to add, no, the main objective of presenting and doing this Philippines Pavilion is not just about trade, no. Actually, it's very multifaceted. No, that's why we call it the reset of the minds. No? It is about a mindset approach. It is about the changing of the mentality. It is about the freedom of the Filipinos. Because, you know, we've been free from all this colonialization. But then we still carry it.
That's true.
We still feel that there's a leash, though it's there, it's not there anymore. No? But it's because of the mentality that we are so limited. When we talk about history, we always think our history is only up to 500 years. But basically, it's ancient. It's more ancient than the waters. No? So the idea here is if we get to put this in the minds of the new Filipinos, this will be multiple in terms of effect. It affects all the life of a Filipino. No, it doesn't end to creatives. It doesn't end in the engineers or the technical people. It affects the whole life of the Filipinos. In fact, in that very moment that you see and know that your real history is nature, on that very moment, you are free. And the mind is different right away. This is the one that is more important to achieve in this very exhibit. That's why we even design it to be able to bring back to Clark. Because this should not end up to 6 months. This should continue through all generations. That's why we got a property in Clark, and we make sure that all the students will be able to go through that experience. So again, this is, for me, it's one of the most prudent investment of the government, because if you're thinking of trying to change the mindset of the Filipinos, make it fun, make it creative. Through architecture, design, and arts, you can liberate the mindset of the Filipinos.
May I say just one more thing before you finish?
Sure.
Since there is such a huge, a massive campaign of communication towards the world from the Philippine community, from the Philippines on this one, we suggest maybe it's also time to ditch the word workers and start referring to our people here as overseas Filipinos instead of overseas workers, because there is a stigma on that word. And, you know, we're hoping that you would consider that when you rewrite, you know, you start retelling the Filipino narrative here. I think it's time to change that.
Well, I think, as I mentioned it a while ago, we are now, in terms of modern bayanihan, we are now the modern collaborators of the world. We are not anymore workers. We are collaborators of the world. We are changing the world. We have people in NASA making great decisions about space shuttle. You know, we are not here creating spears anymore. We are basically part of the whole progress of mankind.
Sorry. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you. And imagine the conversations that are going to come, even just from this short presentation, and what will happen when everybody sees the Bangkota. We have time for maybe 2 to 3 more questions. We have Janina, all the way from Manila.
I am Janina from Business World. So to extend on that idea of collaboration, what are your expectations in terms of how we could show our creativity in terms of partnerships with other countries?
A while ago, I was mentioning that there are great technologies all over the world. No? And one good example of an instance, the group of students who won the competition in robotics in the US. No? These were actually students who created a design and they didn't create a robot that will, you know, reach Mars. No? But they created an application that makes the astronaut who stays in space and connect to the family back on Earth. To be able to see their kids and to be able to connect to their children. And they won a gold award. So what I'm saying is that I think the Filipinos will always have something about humanity that will make technology more for people. So even if the world keeps developing it towards, towards becoming colder and farther from what humanity is all about, because the race becomes more of what's better, who's the best. But then the Filipinos will always have the heart and the spirit to say, we're back to nature. We are nature. Our culture is nature. So I think that is a wisdom that the Filipinos carry, and I think that is something that we can bring on the table to collaborate with the world's great inventions. So we are not limited. If Germany wants a soul in their design, invite a Filipino. Because Germans can be very technical. Yes, they're good. But Filipinos, we can be good. We can be accurate now, as I was saying. We're done with the mata-mata, or we call it millimeter. In mm in architecture, we call it mm. No? But mm means supposed to be millimeter. You're supposed to be as precise as going through millimeter. But in some Filipinos, they call it mata-mata. No? So it's like tinatansya lang. No? But this is something that I think the world will see once they see Bangkota and they see the progress and the promise of the minds of the Filipinos. Then we are in business. The world will now open for more collaborations with Filipinos. And again, I think that is part of what is dignity, what is self-respect, and that idea that you believe that you are one of the great variety of the world. You are not here to compete. We are not here to compete. We are here to present our variety as a nation, as people. So I think that's how we see ourselves. That's how I see myself as a collaborator. That's how we see Buji Royal collaborating with the world. We're not bringing Bahay Kubo in all these places, but we're bringing the modern Filipino sensibility to the world.
Yes, we have time for 2 more questions.
Hello, Elijah from the Business Mirror. Architect, with the success of your designs, Mactan 2 and the new Clark City, and now the Bangkota, are you getting architectural proposals from other countries, other foreign firms?
Oh. Well, this is, it's a good news not to share. We just got an inquiry from the Solomon Islands asking us to design their stadium, athletic stadium, because they're now hosting the Pan-Pacific Games. And what they said is like, in their communication, we would like to bring the practical luxury in the Solomon Islands. So isn't it amazing that the Philippines is hosting a sensibility that is for the world? This is not limited to the Philippines. If you're talking about real sustainability, practical luxury is all about it. Juan de la Cruz, who was not even an architect, was already doing sustainability from day one. Now, he was not trying to create Philippine architecture. He was not trying to say this should be sustainable. He was trying to be very truthful. So I think that's one. Second is, when I presented in the sustainability talk, last forum last November, and Brazil, the Netherlands, and the Philippines were invited. And again, as mentioned, they all presented the advanced technology, so on and so forth. They're all good, no? They're all nice. We're not saying that they are not, no? They're beautiful. No? But I think when we presented ours, I think it hits the real essence of what is real sustainability. And after that talk, South Africa came to me, and they're asking us to design their pavilion. They invited us to bid for that pavilion. And one Emirati came and said, this is the sincerest concept of what sustainability is all about.
Wow.
But Because we believe that anything that we need to do as people should really start with the mind. That's why when we were asked to talk about sustainability, we thought about cultural sustainability. Because we can keep creating, but if our real core, if we still believe that man and nature is the word or the phrase we need to embrace, you will always have a dilemma because there's duality. But if you change your mindset that man is nature, you will never disrespect nature the way you used to do once you embrace it. So this is something that the Filipinos can feel. We feel it, and we're just sharing it to the world. And again, we are not competing, we're just truthfully presenting ourselves. And what's nice is that they are recognizing these truthful efforts. No? So again, we don't need to put a false front or try to get the validation from others. We just have to keep improving ourselves. No? We have to refine ourselves as Filipinos. That's what I believe in.
Okay, one last question. Anyone? Okay, from the back.
Hi, good afternoon. Ayan Gonzaga from BXD. Definitely there's a lot of stories to tell about this. Is there any plans? I'm sure there will be campaigns in the pipeline, but is there already plans to mobilize content creators here in Dubai maybe or in the Philippines to campaign further beyond press coverage, to tell more stories, to create awareness about what we will bring to Expo 2020?
Yes.
That's actually going to be the job of our marketing communications team, BBDO Guerrero.
That's right.
And in fact, they're putting together a plan. We're supposed to sit down and discuss it back in Manila. But it's going to involve a lot of digital and social media marketing and a little less of the usual traditional advertising. But the most important is we also are depending on the Filipino community media agencies here in Dubai to help us spread the word around. Tomorrow, Secretary Mon Lopez is going to have a town hall meeting with the Philippine Society. And that's another avenue, another channel that we're also trying to maximize so that we can bring our message closer to the Filipinos here. At the end of the day, really, it's us who should help one another. Right?
Yeah, I think something I can reveal to that without giving too many details yet, because all of this will be introduced to you in time, is we want to do a campaign also that will be user-generated, that people can run away with. So very similar to what you saw with the Department of Tourism campaign, It's More Fun in the Philippines, where they downloaded a font and there were things that people ran away with. What we want to do is really get the support of Filipinos all over the world, not just in Dubai, to really tell the story of the 4,000 years of creative movement, the result of which is us. Creative, compassionate, caring people. And this is our gift to the world. So thank you for that question. Thank you, guests. And of course, thank you to our panelists here for answering everybody's queries. I'm going to turn... Yes, Sec Lopez is back. Hello. Okay.
Told you it will be a quick meeting at the other side. No, basically, apart from the beautiful message that we want to put forward, the rich history and the modernity of the Filipinos, back on the business side, actually, this is really part of strengthening the bilateral relationship between Philippines and UAE. So I guess we'd like to share with you that as we meet many of our counterparts, just like right now, what we have started to discuss is a possible investment promotion and protection agreement between Philippines and UAE. Because we realize that as we speak with them, if there are investors that are wanting to, invest in the Philippines, the first question they ask is usually, is there an investment protection agreement? Because we are not that known to people from UAE or investors from UAE. So figure out that is one important agreement that we should have. Then the other thing is, of course, we can possibly commence exploring having an FTA with UAE. On the principle that we've started with the Joint Economic Commission, and the Joint Economic Commission allows us to discuss many facets of economic relationship between two countries. So looking into all the other dimensions ng economic relationship, trade, investments, services, exports, etc. So that we would like to usually upgrade it already to a possible FTA. So these are just two possible, I guess, agreements that hopefully we can fast track and sign next year or year after when the president is here. So yun lang, just to give you some idea on where we're heading when it comes to bilateral relationship. No? So. Okay lang yan. Yeah, okay lang yan. Sige, okay. So yun lang. Well, where's the...
Thank you very,
okay, thank you
very much, Secretary
Thank you
Lopez.
very much.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do a photo opportunity. If we could just remove the chairs, please, and if I can have Assistant Secretary Rosvi Gaitos, Secretary Lopez, Architect Royal Pineda, and Mr. Buji Leog, as well as Miss Marian Pastor Rosas, to please go to the stage for a photo opportunity. And I would like to also invite the Philippines Organizing Committee and partners to also